There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Chasing Data. We are in the top 10 of our power rankings, breaking down every team like we have been doing all off season long. And today we're at 8 and 7. And number 8, Denver Broncos, as you can see. And we're not even going to do update of the last week's stories. Not much is going on. We're just going to get straight into it this week. Set up here. Let's see. There we go. All right. So what we've done so far is we've gotten all the way to 9. And the Packers is who we talked about last. At number 9, Texans at 10, Tampa Bay at 11. So tonight we're going to do 8 and 7. And without further ado, number 8 is the Denver Broncos. So why are the Broncos number 8? Why do I have them above the Packers? The Packers, Jordan Love has not shown me enough to say that he is going to 100% be able to not turn over the ball like he did so much last season. Denver's defense is better than their offense or Green Bay's offense or defense. I mean, that's the best group out of the 4 for sure. And they have Sean Payton in Denver. Bo Nix may not have a high ceiling, but when you have Sean Payton as your play caller, it definitely raises the floor for sure. So, like I said, Broncos are number 8. Last season, they were 10 and 7, over/under of 9.5 wins this season. They currently have the 11th best odds at plus 2,500 to be the champs this year. They have the 5th best odds to win the AFC at plus 1,300. That's behind the likes of the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and maybe the Bengals, I believe. The Texans were lower than the Bengals, I want to say. But anyway, so they have the 2nd best odds to win the AFC West at plus 300, which is not far off from what the Chiefs are. Last year, they started 0-2, then they went 3-3. Then they had that 7-4 finish. Remember they blew out the Carson Wentz led Kansas City Chiefs in Week 18. Head coach, like I said earlier, is Sean Payton. The defense, in the last 2 seasons under Sean Payton, I know he's more of the offensive side of the ball, but the defense has gone from 29th to 7th in yards per game. This defense we're going to talk a lot about tonight. Sean Payton's 18 and 16 in his 2 seasons, and no playoff wins since 2015, which is their Super Bowl win. When you look at this team as overall, last year they were 10th in points per game, which was great, especially in the second half of the season. Bo Nix came around at 24 points per game. Yards per play were low a lot. A-dot of his throws were definitely low. But they were good in the red zone. They were 9th in red zone scoring percentage at 61%. The run game was the problem on the offensive side of the ball. 20th in yards per carry at 4.2. Yards per pass, 24th. I'm telling you that A-dot was near the bottom of the league. Most of his passes going behind the line of scrimmage. But the offensive line held him up, had the 2nd lowest sack rate last year. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, this is where they excelled, especially in the second half of the season. They were 3rd in points per game for the season, but like I said, in the second half, they were even better, allowing just 19 points per. 5 yards per play, which is 3rd best. They actually had a mediocre 3rd down conversion percentage allowed at 38%, which was 13th. But they had the number 1 red zone scoring defense as far as touchdowns allowed. It was 44% last year. So when push came to shove, they were able to stop teams in the red zone. 2nd best yards per carry allowed at just 4 per tick. The pass a little bit worse, but still great. All right, the offensive coordinator has been there with Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi. That's quote-unquote Joe Lombardi. Defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph, this rushing defense overall went from the run D went from 30th 2 years ago to 3rd last year. I'm telling you, they were just amazing. Amazing. This defense just continued to get better, and the offseason has even improved even more. So let's bring up their depth chart here. All right, so When you're looking at this here, the blue names are the ones that are returning players. Orange are free agents that they signed. The pinkish magenta color are their drafted players, and the teal colors, mostly on the right side of the screen, are their undrafted free agents. Definitely don't want to see those names on the left side of the screen this early in the offseason. So with that said, some of the main additions that they had, starting on the offensive side of the ball, Evan Ingram. Jacksonville Jaguars cut him. I mean, this guy, he had a down year last year, but 2 years ago, one of the top 5 tight ends in the NFL. He was injured last year, played just 9 games, so his stat line doesn't really reflect what he could do. But 2 years ago, he had over 110 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, just 4 touchdowns. But he was the highlight of that offense with Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was injured last year. Brian Thomas Jr. took over the spotlight in Jacksonville, but they get Evan Ingram, and we know how much Sean Payton loves his tight ends, on a 2-year, $18 million contract. So no Troutman getting the workload this year. They also signed late into the offseason J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, he is not, I mean, last year was his best year since his rookie year, but that's mostly due to the fact that he was able to stay healthy for the entirety of the season. If he can stay healthy, I mean, it takes a knock to R.J. Harvey, who they took in the second round, but I feel like this is going to be a running back by committee regardless. We saw what they did last year. How much of that was due to the fact that no one really took the run game by the reins and just took over. Javonte Williams was their best runner, and he didn't really do anything. I mean, J.K. Dobbins last year had 5th highest explosive run rate, which are runs that are 10 yards or more, at 13.8% among running backs with at least 150 carries or more. So I mean, he did have a little bit of burst. That top end speed is not really there with the injuries he's had in the past. He also rushed for 115 yards over expected, which is 13th highest mark amongst all running backs, despite missing 4 games last year. So he didn't play the entire season, but he did play more than what he has the prior 2 seasons. The other Chargers running backs combined for minus 77 rush yards over expected. So, I mean, he was definitely the bell cow of that group. That's on the offensive side of the ball. They bring in Trent Sherfield Sr. I mean, he's probably not going to get much play time. I mean, they have wide receivers that are doing some things, some young ones for sure. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, I mean, Sam Ehlinger, we're not worried about him. If they get to him in the season's over. On the defensive side of the ball, like I said, the defense was the better group for this team, and they got even better. They bring in Talanoa Hufanga from San Francisco. If he can be what he was 2 years ago, you know, he had the injury. He was out for the majority of the season last year, but if he could be what he was 2 years ago in San Francisco, especially what we remember him coming through with Robert Saleh and that defense, they get him on a 3-year, $45 million contract. He could just be just like the safety point in the back end of that defense for the Broncos. And if you wanted to pick a spot on this defense that was considered a weakness per se, you could say linebacker. But now they bring in Dre Greenlaw, who, when healthy, I mean, he's playing like what, a top 6, 8 linebacker, if not better. I mean, when he and Fred Warner were together in San Francisco before he got injured in the Super Bowl, that was the top 1-2 punch as far as linebackers go in the NFL. They bring him in on a 3-year, $35 million contract, which is 9th in average value. And I mean, God, this defense, like I said, the rich just get richer. Bringing him in, I mean, it's going to be great. Stranad, he started to come along later in the season, I feel. But this defense is just, we're going to talk more about it as we go. That's just the additions. But they re-signed DJ Jones, bring him back as the nose tackle on a 3-year, $39 million contract. He was second in run stop win rate amongst nose tackles, and had 33 solo tackles last year, which was 15th. But I mean, there's a solid piece on the inside of this defensive front, where there's really no weaknesses. Okay, looking at their draft. In the first round, they go out and I mean they surprised me honestly. When this defense is already so good, I honestly thought I think a lot of people felt that they were going to go wide receiver or running back. You know, Marion Hampton was mocked to a lot of drafts to them, especially at that pick 20 in 20 to 23 region for Marion Hampton. But they go defense and they get another cornerback to pair with Patrick Surtain. I mean, Riley Moss really came into his own last year as CB2, but Jade Barron's probably going to come in and take that position. His comp coming into the NFL was Cooper DeJean, who excelled greatly, especially in the Super Bowl. I mean, this guy, his ability to read the quarterback in zone is crazy. I mean, he's one of 7 players to run a sub 4.4 last year at the combine. He's strong enough to keep the wide receiver from separating, even though he has short arms. He had 5 interceptions last year. And he also is a great run defender, can line up anywhere, primarily outside, but you can put him anywhere. So versatile for sure. I had him as DB2 or cornerback 2 behind Travis Hunter for this draft. In the second round, they go get R.J. Harvey, who I thought was going to be the starting running back, but then they go and sign J.K. Dobbins to really muddy up that backfield. Last year for R.J. Harvey, he was third team AP All-Pro, first team All Big 12. He had 48 total touchdowns, 22 rushing touchdowns. He ranked 6th in all of FBS with almost 1,600 yards on the ground at almost 7 yards per carry. So, I mean, this guy was a stat filler for sure. Started all 12 games last year. I mean, he's productive as you can see with those numbers. I mean, there's some people who believe that he could be a backup is his ceiling, but it's just hard to project a lot of these running backs. You know, you may get one in the first round that's a bust, a la Trent Richardson, and then you may have some who are amazing who go in the 7th round. I mean, it's just you never know. You never know what you're going to get, honestly, with these running backs, in my opinion. 3rd round, they finally get their wide receiver in Pat Bryant. He's a 3-year starter who just kind of his stock has steadily been rising over the last few years. He's a big wide receiver to go alongside Cortland Sutton. They need another big physical wide receiver on the outside. He doesn't really have the vertical threat, but they have other players for that for sure. You know, he lacks things in explosiveness, but what he lacks there, he makes up with like his IQ on the football field and his physicality when running those inside crossers for sure. So going to be interesting where he ends up in this offense. You know, we have Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, who was that speed threat, Devon Vele, who came. There's your 7th round pick last year, who came on strong late in the season. You have Troy Franklin as well, who they brought in with Bo Nix, and now they have Pat Bryant. So they're trying to work some things to see who's going to be these top 3 wide receivers in this wide receiver room. They bring in A.T. Perry, also who was with the Saints at one point. Also in the 3rd round, let's go back to their draft picks. They go get another defensive player in Savion Jones, defensive end out of LSU. Started all 13 games last year, 7.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. He's a 4.3 player. He fits the NFL mold for sure. He's average as far as bending around the corner to get to the quarterback. I mean, this is what happens. I mean, they add him to this front 4 of Zach Allen, who's greatly underrated. John Franklin Myers, also underrated. Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito, who came on strong last year rushing the passer. So we're going to see what he can do to add to that front 4. Then they go get Q Robinson in the 4th round. I mean, this defense, it just gets better and better the more you look at it. So let's see. Do they have anybody else worth noting? A punter in the 6th round and a tight end. Nothing to really speak on with that. As far as their subtractions go, they lost Cody Barton. That's basically it. Anybody of note? Over an offseason, NFL teams typically see a 25-35% roster turnover rate. Last year, the Denver Broncos led the entire NFL in this department. They had just 14% of their roster turnover, which was the lowest rate. That means 86% of their players and all but one of their starters are coming back. So that's huge as far as growth going into the second season. Strengths of this team. Sean Payton is a strength for the Denver Broncos. His play calling is, I mean, it can't be overlooked, can't be spoken highly enough about. I mean, this guy, he went from New Orleans where he was a great play caller and ends up in Denver and does the same thing, honestly. The offensive line, they had the lowest quarterback pressure rate allowed in the NFL last year, 24.9%. Had the third fewest sacks allowed at 24. Part of that is Bo Nix's escapability, but mostly this offensive line is solid from left all the way to right. Another strength, let's see. I mean, they have Bo Nix. I mean, you could say he's a strength. I mean, when you get down to the lower teams, they don't have much strengths. I wanted to say R.J. Harvey, who had explosive plays on 23% of his carries last year. So that's an offensive playmaker for sure. But all the strengths, or majority of the strengths, are on the defensive side of the ball. And, you know, I mean, you got to really go full screen for this. The defense is probably the biggest strength as a whole for this team going into 2025. All around, there's no weak spot. The weak spot that you could have argued last year was the linebacker position, and they go out and get Dre Greenlaw, who, when healthy, could be easily a top 10, top 8 linebacker in the NFL. You look at their numbers from last year, they were first in EPA per play allowed. They were first in EPA per pass allowed. They were first in EPA allowed per rush. Sorry, let me back up a little bit. They were first in EPA allowed per play. They were first in EPA allowed per pass. They were third in EPA allowed per rush. They had the most quarterback pressures in the NFL. They had the most sacks in the NFL. And they had the third highest stuff rate on runs at over 20%. All around, this defense was just amazing. You add that to the fact that they have superstars on this defense, and Patrick Surtain II. I already spoke at him ad nauseum and how good he is. He was targeted on just 10.9% of his coverage snaps last year, the lowest rate among 83 cornerbacks who had 300 or more coverage snaps. He allowed just 306 yards as the nearest defender in 516 coverage snaps. That's 0.6 yards per coverage snap, second fewest among all DBs. This guy's just all around amazing. Did not allow 50 or more receiving yards in any single game, and he's going up against wide receiver 1 every single week. Zach Allen, another defensive superstar who is so underrated for the Denver Broncos and in the NFL altogether. He led all defensive tackles at 67 pressures last year, which tied for the 9th most amongst all pass rushers in the NFL. Most of his success was against the double teams. He had 14 of his 67 pressures in such matchups, which was the 5th most of all players in the NFL. He posted career highs in pressures, double team pressures, quick pressures, defensive stops, run stuffs, and sacks. He had 8.5 sacks last year. This guy is just all around great. So I mean, that's their strengths. We could talk all night about their defense. Weaknesses. Deep pass on offense. The run game could be a weakness. They were 14th in EPA per rush. That number's a little skewed due to what Bo Nix could do. They were 21st in success rate on the ground. Last year's leader was Javonte Williams, who had 139 carries for 513 yards, 52 receptions. That's due to that ADOT of Bo Nix in the pass game. But they were 16th overall in rushing, 11th in rushing first downs, and 14th in explosive runs. The thing is, when you think about it, they had maybe one of the best, if not the best, run blocking groups in the NFL. So with that, I feel like they should be even better with their run game because their run block win rate was the best in the NFL at 74.9%. And I mean, they have Quinn Miners, Ben Powers, Luke Weidenberg, Mike McGlinchey, Garrett Bowles. All these guys are just amazing. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm hoping R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins can do more in the run game. We're really picking nits as far as weaknesses go with this team. And that showed in rush yards over expected. They were 24th. Okay, when you look at their cap, I mean, we're still talking about the cap here. They have 299 million committed, which is 17th, so right in the middle of the NFL. Their top paying contracts this year are to McGlinchey, Cortland Sutton, Zach Allen, Powers, and John Franklin Myers. They have 15 million in cap space. I mean, who would they go get out of the remaining players? I mean, there's not really anyone. They're not. I mean, I feel like they have the best. They got the best running back out of the group in free agency. There's not anything else that they need that they would go spend money on. I mean, they save that money, and if someone gets hurt, maybe use it then. But let's see. Moving on, dead cap with this team. Is there much dead cap for them? Let's see. Lost my spot here. 33 million dead cap. I forget. They had Russell Wilson. 32 of that goes to him. 33 million is like middle of the pack for teams in the NFL. Looking at their schedule. Let's bring up their schedule here. There we go. All right, so they are right in the middle as far as strength of schedule goes. A little bit over a 50% win rate. They have 5 primetime games this year. So the team last year really bumped that up to this year, 1 international game. Week 1 at home at Tennessee. Week 2 at Indy. 4 of their first 6 games are away. Week 3 at the Chargers. Week 4, Monday Night Football at home versus the Bengals. Week 5 at Philadelphia. Week 6, international game in the UK against the Jets. Week 7, don't have a bye right after that international game. They play the Giants in New York. Week 8, Dallas at home. Week 9, Houston on the road. Week 10, Las Vegas. Divisional game on Thursday Night Football. Week 11, another divisional matchup against KC. Then they have their bye finally in Week 12. Week 13, they travel to Washington for Sunday Night Football. Week 14, at Las Vegas. Week 15, Green Bay at home. Week 16, Jacksonville at home. And then they finish the season with 2 divisional games back-to-back. They play Kansas City in Week 17, Christmas game, Thursday Night Football, and then at home versus the Chargers. This team, we're going to talk about their win totals and what I expect. We could go game by game, but that would be a lot of content there. Also, what I go through and look at is their odds for award races for this season and who their most improved player could be. So MVP, I mean, it's Bo Nix, but he's 14th best odds at plus 3,500. There's no offensive player of the year odds that's worth mentioning. Defensive player of the year is Patrick Surtain at plus 4,000, and part of that is likely due to the fact that he won it last year. Voter fatigue is definitely going to get the best of people. RJ Harvey had the best offensive rookie of the year odds at plus 2,000. It was definitely high or better odds than that prior to the J.K. Dobbins signing. Jahdae Barron at plus 1,800 on defensive rookie of the year. Sean Payton had plus 1,600 coach of the year odds, which was very surprising to me. I thought it would be much worse odds. But I mean, if he wins this division, he's definitely it's a good bet right there. Most improved player, I would take the run game as a whole, or Bo Nix's ADOT, average depth of target. Those got to improve. Drop-off candidates, I don't know who could drop off. You could argue the defense, just say that they can't replicate the things they did last year, but I don't know that that's really feasible. X factors for this team, I try to avoid the quarterback, but I mean, honestly, it has to be Bo Nix. He has to take that next step for this team to be a Super Bowl contender, I believe. And that's about all they're away from doing is him being a top 12 quarterback. That takes them to the Super Bowl, 100%. This defense is elite top 3. And I mean, so it has to be on the offensive side of the ball. Easy as that. Outcomes for this team to finish up the Broncos and move on to our second team. Best case scenario for the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix is a top 12 quarterback. They get literally anything better out of the run game. They have one of the best, if not the best, run blocking offensive lines in the NFL. And now they add the likes of RJ Harvey in the second round, J.K. Dobbins, who's coming off arguably his best season as a professional football player. If this run game can be 15th, 13th. That's amazing for this offense. The defense is probably going to be top 3 at minimum. They have superstars in Patrick Surtain, Zach Allen. They add Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, Jade Barron. The rich just get richer. The Chiefs get no better. Maybe they take a step back. We've been waiting for them to take a step back every single year. Patrick Mahomes still holds them in there. The Chargers are not there yet. Their defense definitely takes a step back from where they were last year. They don't have any names on that defense at this point. And then the Broncos are competing for the AFC West. And if you're competing for the AFC West, Bo Nix is the top 12 quarterback. There's a path for them to get to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. On the flip side, worst case scenario for the Denver Broncos is Bo Nix's ADOT is still -2 yards per attempt. The run game is no better. The defense can't duplicate or replicate what they did last year. They dropped to, let's say, 7th, 8th. I mean, their floor is definitely top 8. But I still think the wild card is the floor for this team at 9-7. Like, I mean, you look at the schedule, I don't foresee them dropping much further than that. My realistic expectation for the Broncos is Bo Nix is 16th best quarterback or better, 18th, 14th. RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins give them some life in the backfield. Evan Ingram is used so much in this offense, in the Sean Payton offense. The defense is somehow better than last year. I mean, they just have so many names and so much depth. And they're actually giving Kansas City a fight for the division for once. It's not KC running away with it like it has been every single year since Patrick Mahomes took over. And this team is very likely finishing at 11-6 or 12-5. I know their over-under is 9.5, but the Raiders are not with them. The Chargers are not with them. They should go at least 3-1, if not 4-0 against those two teams. And then if they split against the Chiefs, you're definitely looking at 11-6 and 12-5. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Denver Broncos in 2025. Take a quick break, and then we will do